we're drinking a couple of things just for people who will be wondering what we're drinking. We got a whiskey barrel stout from barrel aged stout from Boulevard. I mean, what else you got over there?
And then we have the Vortex IPA from Fort George Brewing.
Oh, wow.
Out of Oregon?
Yeah.
Someplace in the West. We got a partner of ours who travels around in a Airstream, and they send us beer every now and then.
Astoria, Oregon.
Yeah, Oregon. So
I need friends like that.
look,
that's what the beer world's about, man.
Look, we can certainly send you guys some Kansas City beer. You know what I'm saying?
We'll just send a little care package. Let's do this.
Beers with Nigel is poured for you by Dire Oil Graphics, promotional products and design. They cover your brand bumper to bumper with graphic design, promo products, and print. See what Dire Oil Graphics can build for you at direoil.com. That's DYEROIL.com.
And welcome to Beers with Nigel. It's a show about beer
and other things,
and other stuff. And live from, not even live. We got Khonso Brewing in the house.
Live to tape.
Live to tape. William, but he's not in his hometown because you guys are out of Atlanta, right?
Yes. And sorry, I was trying to get the shirt, but right now in Charleston, South Carolina, at the Craft Beer Professionals winter workshop. So there are a lot of us here from across the country. I don't think we have anyone from KC, but Dave Bracey's here from Barrel and Flow. Marcus Baskerville is getting in tomorrow. And just several people from all around come and participate in this, what I call an open source learning experience.
Oh, wow.
So it's just industry professionals who like to share knowledge and wisdom.
Right.
And I'm absorbing it. I'm running a panel tomorrow. We're right now at a Common House Ale Works, which is a brewery not far from downtown Charleston. So we're having a good time so far.
So
that's awesome.
There's beer.
I love that you talk about, just open source, share knowledge. Isn't that what makes the craft beer industry so good? Is everybody's willing to do that.
Whether it's marketing, today we had a whole session on quality that looked at, measuring variations in temperature of the beer in order to make sure there's no diacetyl in the final product. There are people here to do every aspect of the beer business is represented here, from back of house, front of house, and office. We got some suppliers here that do hops, brand awareness, accounting, grains, you name it. So it's a fun event, and it's really Andrew Copland sort of started this several years ago, and as a way to just help those, especially the smaller beer companies, the smaller beer brands, and folks that work with them, to have a space where we can ask questions, not feel stupid, and people will give you an honest answer. And sometimes they may let you know your question is not as advanced as you think it is, but you get an answer.
Yeah.
So,
what's the panel you're running tomorrow?
Yeah.
What was that?
What is the panel that you're moderating tomorrow?
Oh, the one I'm drinking right now?
No, the panel tomorrow.
Oh, the panel. The panel is about expansion. So
right up your alley.
We're talking where we have a panel of companies that can support expansion of production or new locations and all the aspects of that expansion. So there's an equipment supplier, There's an accounting firm. There are a couple of breweries that have done different types of expansion. So if a beer brewery or a beer brand's looking at sort of expanding its footprint, whether it's production or a second location, our goal is to go over the questions you should be asking before you make the decision to do that.
Right.
And the number one thing is, do you got the money to do it? And if you do, there are other questions. Where is it? There are other, whether it's logistical, marketing, production type questions. For one, an example was one brewery is being, their landlord informed them that their building was sold.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have to move within the next 6 months.
Wow.
So they have a second location that's just a tap room. But now they need to move their production. So one idea is maybe we go find some cheap land in different parts of the city or a cheap building and just move our production there and move all our tap room stuff to that other location.
Yeah.
There are just questions there when that happens. And we all know of someone that's kind of in that position of they had to move because the rent is too damn high.
Right. Right.
So before we get into the story of Khonso Brewing, I'm kind of curious about your history in beer. What do you remember what you were drinking before you discovered craft beer?
My story is interesting. I paused a little bit because my first experience with beer was when I turned 18. Where I was living, the drinking age was still 18.
Nice.
So I was able to go and actually buy beer for my friends because I was a little bit on the older side. Despite the usual suspects that we bought when we were in our, mid to late teens, I found St. Pauli Girl. Was one of the first sort of non-domestic macro lagers, and I thought, dang, this is pretty freaking good.
Yeah.
I think I should get into this.
That's a first call out on the show.
And St. Pauli Girl, heard.
Nice.
And it was a one-off because I was like, hey, the label looked kind of cool, and I'm drinking it, and I was like, oh, beer can taste different than what we normally drink. And I went to college in Boston, and while I was there was the early days of Sam Adams.
Yeah.
So, Boston Beer Company, Sam Adams. And so I got to go to their original tap room when it was really a tap room. It wasn't a big operation like it is today, but got to try some beer, early stages of, it can taste different, it can taste better.
Right.
And just over the years, I sort of kept exploring, early 90s, started drinking some Sierra Nevada, and just continuously over the years, I mixed it in with my regular alcohol consumption. I'd go and buy something new and different from me and my peers, and would be like, this is pretty good.
Yeah.
So I kept that up for several years. Early 2000s, I was doing some community development work in a neighborhood I used to live in, and the idea of a Black-owned brewery sort of came up as something that, hey, we've never really explored the idea of African Americans making beer at a large commercial level. And so I learned of a brewery that was in Oakland at the time called Brothers Brewing. It's interesting now because it's hard to find information on them. But back in the early days of like 2007 to 2010, they were featured on CNN. There's this whole history about these African-American brothers who were engineers out in Silicon Valley who started brewing and created a beer company. And then all of a sudden they just went away.
Huh.
So I'm always fascinated about, well, what the fuck happened?
Yeah.
And so I sort of, when that didn't grow any legs, I moved to eventually sort of got into home brewing.
Yeah.
And I found some folks who were attuned to that in my community, and sort of started working from there.
What was the first thing you homebrewed? That's always an interesting question.
First thing we homebrewed was, we got one of those Mr. Beer kits.
There it is.
There it is.
Mr. Beer Kid strikes again.
Yes.
It wasn't an IPA. I think it was just a simple pale ale. Then we did like a brown ale. Then we did a red ale. And then by default, we started getting, what eventually happened was we got interested in this all grain thing.
Yeah.
So we transitioned from the extracts and the kits to buying our grain. We liked, I always tell people, I like the smell of beer.
Yeah.
I like the smell of the brewing process. I like so many different aspects of it. I enjoy it. And once we started all grain brewing is when me, Kevin, and Corby really started getting into the space of like, we really like this.
Yeah.
And both my business partners, they started down that, they each had their own journey, but we also ended up at that same space around 2013 in Kevin's backyard with that little kit going like, well, let's try it.
So how were those first beers? How'd they taste? Were they any good?
They weren't bad, but they weren't good. So,
right.
Part of my background is education, and I typically tell people about things in the terms of grades. So I was like, we were pulling a C.
That's not terrible.
You can still graduate. You're fine.
Hey, we've had presidents that were C students.
Or worse.
Exactly.
Sorry.
But, we were always interested. It's like, well, can we get a B? And we sort of kept at it.
Yeah.
And eventually felt that over time, we had the benefit of a close community of Kevin, Corby, and myself. So we were able to bounce. It wasn't done in isolation, is part of what I was trying to say.
Right.
So we would just be able to try things and leverage and listen to each other and go back and do it again or try something different. And we still sort of carried that all the way through to today.
Yeah, you'd be surprised the through line of people who start with a Mr. Beer kit and now they own a brewery.
Right.
There's a lot of people out there that's where they started. It's crazy.
When did the conversation go from, yeah, we're doing pretty good on our own, maybe we should try going pro?
Well, one of the things for me was looking at how do we. One of the things for me was I embraced the concept of Black people making things again.
Heard.
So, despite the Cirocs and all the other things, we see our names attached to things or our celebrities attached to a variety of different brands and things. Heck,
we don't make
50 cents in the water.
Yeah.
He didn't do any. It was just his name on a brand.
Yeah.
And growing up in Tuskegee, Alabama, I used to take my kids to actual cotton fields and let them go out there and go like, this is what people had to do.
Wow.
From sun up to sundown. And we used to make clothes from that. And we used to, take whatever was available for food and turn it into something good. And despite what they say about George Washington brewing beer, we all know the slaves made it for us. They didn't work. It's just it's part of the reality of the dynamic of the time.
Yeah.
Is that anything that required labor
Right.
You know, they had slaves to do.
Yeah.
And so for us, a huge component of it is going back to that thing of we make things and we make them well and we add our flavor to it, which takes it to another level,
Right.
which eventually other people then come into and embrace. Sometimes they claim.
I was gonna go there.
Yeah, sometimes they
I don't know what you're
like,
talking
wow,
about.
how did
We
that
don't
get that
claim.
You know, it's just kind of like the story of Korean fried chicken. Well, they didn't. Part of the reason they started frying chicken was the GIs from the Korean War,
Yeah.
black GIs from the Korean War. But no one wants to say that. It's like, oh well, you know what? They just magically started figuring out, hey, I can fry chicken like that. No, you know, it was our influence that, and then they were able to sort of, you know, put their spin on it,
Right,
which takes it to another
yeah.
level. So that's how we approach it. Is what we see the black brewing diaspora sort of bringing to the table is a broader palette to try and explore things that a lot of folks don't really know they can.
Yeah.
You know, you look at soul food like ham hocks. You know, that was, you know, the discards that were thrown out during slavery. We made like really good stuff with.
I mean, yeah.
Well, like everything barbecue, right? That the world knows.
Yeah.
Everything barbecue, everything heavily seasoned, and things like that.
Collard greens was just the extra. That was just regular.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. It's crazy.
It's a hard thing I think for me and people that look like me to understand that there's more to your story than just we started making beer and we got good enough and we thought we wanted to go pro, but like for you there's a whole, or it sounds like, tell me if I'm reading this wrong, but it sounds like there's that story and the history part of it, and changing people's minds is just as important as we got good at brewing.
Yes, and I would frame it a little differently, which is broadening people's minds.
Okay, there you go.
Okay.
You know, and I think you guys appreciate that brewing has been a part of numerous cultures, histories for thousands of years. So it isn't a European thing.
Right.
You know, throwing bitter weeds into it. Yeah, that's, you know, whether you find the elder bitter or not, you know, you kind of get it. But, you know, in Egypt, they added, you know, it was more millet based and stuff like that. And they added things to add a little bit more flavor to make it more palatable.
Yeah.
So it's a part of most, I would say, I couldn't say universally say all cultures, but it's a part of most cultures.
Yeah,
that
most
there's
cultures,
some level of brewing that's a part of all of them. And the challenge of some of the history of this country is there are things that sometimes are viewed as being exclusively one group or another groups and not necessarily part of the overall development of the thing.
Yeah, because I think every
well, there's a little bit of a history of how we write our history books, right? I mean,
But you know, to your point, every culture has. It may not have been beer, but everybody made their own alcohol.
Yeah, fermenting wasn't.
Yeah, everybody was trying to get lit.
It was also health.
That's true.
Potable water.
Yeah.
The Central and South Americans had chicha, which is the corn.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Here, you know, Southern Africa had that, with millet and sorghum. Asia had it with rice.
Yeah.
You know, and I always joke, it's like, hey, they set something out for a little while. Yeast happened. A couple of days later, they drank and it's like, hey, I feel kind of good.
That's pretty good.
You know, wait a minute. My wife's looking a little better, or my husband's looking a little nicer.
The original wild ale.
They had festivals of drunkenness.
Oh yeah.
Throughout the history of the world in all cultures. So it's something that's kind of been all of ours, but oftentimes it can be co-opted into certain narratives that make it be more exclusive. And for the African American community that I sort of grew up in, it was macro, and we didn't really do that. That's not ours, or we don't really have a role in it. I've had people who are just shocked that this has gone on for as long as it's not a new thing. Distilling is more new because when you refine it to extract a whole bunch of alcohol out of it. So it's part of that journey.
So as far as like you and the other fellas, was it a consensus? Say, hey, yeah, we're kind of on the same page. Let's go put this beer out in the world. Did you guys kind of come to that conclusion together, or was there any convincing that had to happen?
It was a consensus based on feedback from. We would have keg parties like college, but it was all homebrew.
Yeah.
So our friends would host us in their backyards or at their businesses and things like that. So we'd have a ball hanging with those guys. And they were like, hey, have you thought about it? And I was like, we've thought about it, but we were fortunate to have some friends around us who helped us get the LLC started and those business pieces. And so we kind of embarked on a journey. That journey started shortly before COVID, and then we turned it down.
Bring them on. Tell them to come on. They can make an appearance.
I will.
Unless Day walks by, we don't want to see Day.
No, if it's Day, if you see Day, you tell them to come on over.
But just along those lines, there was like even the name Khonso. Like when we were starting, we didn't have a name, and we with three people, we had three different names that we all liked.
Yeah.
And so we agreed to put it out on SurveyMonkey to all the folks who come to our events.
That's great.
And Khonso was the one that got the most first place votes.
Well, since you mentioned Khonso, go ahead and tell people what Khonso, what's the meaning, where it comes from.
Well, the name Khonso comes from an ancient Egyptian brewer whose name was Khonso Mheb, whose tomb they discovered back in about a decade ago in Luxor. That was part of an excavation of a noble's tomb in one of the pyramids in Luxor. So they found his tomb, and since then they found other things that have also identified Khonso as being the head of granaries, and they have actual, not hieroglyphics, but paintings of him serving beer to Anubis and Osiris, and things like that. So we wanted to do something that highlighted beer's connection to the African continent, as well as sort of established a place for brewers from that continent in the conversation around beer.
Yeah.
So we went with Khonso, and our people picked it, and we've been going forward with that ever since. My background is education, so there's typically an educational component.
Yes, I love
just about everything we do.
Yeah.
So that is sort of the story of Khonso in the name. He used the eye of Horus, and we've had to talk about what the eye looks like.
Yeah.
To make sure people, I've heard evil eye, Illuminati. It's the eye of Horus, and who is Horus? And so we now have brewed this IPA that a lot of people have had a chance to taste and stuff. That was at Crafting for Action, called Haru, which is the Kemetic name for Horus. So now we're able to sort of connect the eye with the actual mythological figure of Horus.
This just makes our podcast a lot more educational when we get guests like you who have an educational background.
Well, now it's an educational podcast.
It makes us look good.
Well, I'm doing the best I can.
No, you're doing a great job. Speaking of doing a great job, Nick.
Is it time?
Yeah, so we do a thing on the podcast. We have mystery beers, right? So we're gonna play a game. I'm gonna have Nick grab the bag.
Wait, you know what it's time for? Oh,
No,
it's the wrong one.
Hit the wrong button. It's Fred. Oh my God.
All right.
I don't know what he's doing over here. Hit the button. It's mystery beer time. So.
All right. So it's mystery beer.
Yeah. So see the bag. That bag's from a golf course, as you might imagine. The person who got the bag is not talking, so we're not sure what golf course. So I just bring beers and we pull them out and we play a game. And you can play along, even though you're not drinking the beer. He'll tell you the style and where it's from, and then we play a game. We taste it and we play guess the ABV. So,
Okay.
So what we got there?
This is from 4x4 Brewing Company.
That is somewhere in Missouri. I think it's Springfield, Missouri.
I'll find that later.
Yeah.
Ozeptiz.
Ozeptiz.
Ozep.
It's
an Oktoberfest.
Oktoberfest.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead and crack it open. That's a good pop.
Like audio's important.
Yeah, you can do it.
I must say I appreciate guess the ABV.
Yeah. Oh shit, that's good, bro.
We do Price is Right rules. Close without going over.
Yeah. And just knowing what an Oktoberfest is, I'm just gonna go out on a limb, 5.4. Even without tasting it, I'm gonna go 5.4. That's Oktoberfest, right?
Well, taste it first. Let me know is it more on the malty side, the caramel, toffee? It's got a little sweetness going on with it.
It's got a little sweetness. It's not super malty. It does have some coffee notes to it. And it's not, and it's pretty light.
It's not overly malty.
It's pretty light as well.
I'm gonna go 5.5 just to one up you there.
Okay.
And
is it dry? Is it dry on the tongue? Does it just go away after it? After it hits the back of your? Or
a little bit, but not really.
No, it dies pretty quick. It doesn't linger. The flavor does not linger.
Got it. So it's probably a lighter ABV.
What do you think?
It's probably around 5 to 5.5.
Well, you got to give us an actual. Give us your actual number. There's no range. Just like Private's right. I said 5.4.
If it's going that clean, it's probably 5.5, 5.4, 5.5. How much about the other?
Our actual retail ABV, 5.8%.
Oh, 5.8. So if you were here, you would get the rest of the beer, but you don't.
Yes,
correct in Springfield.
I must travel to Kansas City.
Well, I mean, we got big things happening here coming up in the future, but we'll talk about that.
We'll talk about it closer to the end.
So tell me what you guys are doing out in the market. I know you guys don't have a brick and mortar yet, correct?
We do not have a brick and mortar. We're raising money.
But you're out in the market, are you?
Yes. So when we first started, we did some contract brewing. And so we had some brands that were available retail in the market. Since then, we've worked a hybrid model of collab and contract. So we'll do a collaboration beer, especially for events like Barrel and Flow.
Yeah.
So that we have a beer local that we don't have to really transport there. But we keep the recipe. So I have it in my, file so we can revisit later. And then we do limited distribution of our own brands in Georgia. Yeah. So we'll do small batch brews of 3 to 4 barrels, which is, about 90 gallons or so, and 90 to 120 gallons. And, that equates into like 10 6-packs or 10 cases and things like that. But we only work with accounts that work with us. So we don't broadly distribute. We do have a targeted distribution model until we open to support the people that have supported us along the way.
Right.
So it isn't that we don't want to be in a Whole Foods or places like that. We would love to be at one point, but at this current point in time, we're supporting what I like lovingly call the fam, because they've supported us. Yeah. They when our beer is on tap, They let their customers know. They're very engaged with us marketing, so they bring more awareness to us. So we create, we're going to do our best to send people their way.
Yeah.
And you said you started in 20?
We started in 2018.
Oh, 2018. Okay.
With a more traditional contract model, but thanks to COVID, we came up with the blended collab contract concept, so that we're able to, for example, if we do a beer in North Carolina, we'll collab with someone and they'll have the beer locally, and then we'll purchase some and bring it back to Georgia. So even when we do those collabs, we're able to bring it back to our market.
Nice.
So our people get to have it too.
Nice.
So it isn't like, oh, we went to Pittsburgh and we did like the Torchy Brown, the Grzycka, and smoked all wheat malt bill beer, and we brought several kegs back to Georgia, and the places that support us get one,
Right.
and our people get a chance to go have that beer in Georgia.
That's awesome.
So it seems to work for us where we are now. But ultimately, the goal is to have our own location.
Yeah.
We'll remake some of the beers. We'll invite past collab partners to come and remake it with us, and maybe make something new as well. But ultimately, that's the vision. We're very community focused. Corby, one of my business partners, he is the head of a homeless serving organization in Atlanta, homeless serving nonprofit. So community has always been very, very important to us, and understanding and appreciating that, we got to take care of the people who take care of us sometimes.
Right.
And not find a nice new spot in a nice neighborhood and go and leave our folks behind. We kind of want to be where they are, bring them into the fold, and invite all the other folks to come visit us where we are.
I love that, pushing back on the old cliche is business isn't personal, but it is. I love pushing back on that, and it's it is about your community. It is about the people that have been around you and supported you.
And I just love, I used to live in Atlanta years ago. I haven't been back since it's been kind of a black beer mecca. You know what I'm saying? Because it kind of is. I love that you're like, no, it's gonna be for the people who have supported us. That because again, it's almost like Vine Street here. There's opportunity to influence people who know nothing about the craft beer industry. So good on you guys you guys have a great. Just the name itself. When I first met you guys, I think I met you in 2019 at the first.
Yeah.
At Barrel and Flow, the artist formerly known as Fresh Fest.
Yes.
And I always loved the name. And then when I found out what the name meant, I was like, well, they're serious, because you just don't. You can go pick a name, right? But to have a name that has some meaning to it, it kind of reminds me of what's his name, Bastet down in Florida.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's
sorry.
Yeah, there's a meaning behind why he named that beer or named that brewery that name. So I love that you guys are doing that. Who's doing what in the organization? There's 3 of you guys. How's that working?
Well, I am the one that does this full time.
Okay.
Relatively speaking, and I say relatively speaking because I ain't getting paid. But I am what I lovingly call the COO. So I do, I brew, I help come up with recipes. We were just on the phone right before the call talking about home brewing this weekend. Kev's like, what do you want to brew? And I was like, oh, I got this new recipe I learned from some folks here today. Let's try it. We still have fun with it, but I also lend more business-oriented eye to it of, okay, well, when I look at ingredients, how can I simplify? How can I make it more, margins are thin, especially if you distribute. So how can I add that sort of perspective to it so that when we transition it from the backyard to the small brew system and eventually to a large brew system,
Yeah.
how can we make it work on to be profitable? So I'm very involved on the beer side and coming up with recipes, and we'll hammer it through in a couple of hours, which is fun. I like the engagement. I like the pushback we give each other, which is, well, what about this? Well, I tried this way, or something like that. We emphasize South African hops, for example, and that's
Yeah.
a literally big push I made, which is, hey, everybody ain't doing it, but they're really good. Let's incorporate it.
Yeah.
I also do all the marketing, so anything on social media, that's me.
Oh, got it.
When they travel, I will take what they do and add it to the conversation. But I'm more attuned with that. I got young kids, so well, they're not young; they're in their early 20s. But I have a greater comfort with that stuff.
Yeah.
Corby's sort of heading up some of the real estate research. Kev handles various aspects of the financial and accounting components. He was a finance major at Morehouse way back in the day.
Yeah.
So was Corby, by the way. And Corby has a master's in public urban planning. Sorry.
Okay.
So we kind of we leverage our talents in a variety of ways. But I sort of took the reins and said, if we're going to get open, someone has to put sort of the time in to make that happen.
Yeah.
And I stepped into that, but part of that was, as long as we're still having fun, making sure we're still enjoying it along the way.
Yeah.
So we're a little bit older, I'm in my mid 50s, they're in their late 50s, early 60s. And instead of rushing into something, I basically told people we're the tortoise, man.
Yeah.
We're gonna get there.
What's funny?
There's gonna be folks that got there and waiting for us at the finish line, but we still gonna get to that finish line, and let's stay true to us instead of getting caught up in what everybody else is doing. And we work our magic the way we work our magic.
What's funny?
Good, bad, or indifferent.
There ain't nothing wrong with. There's nothing wrong with hitting that home run when you're in your later years.
But
right?
What's funny? Funky Town is a younger version of y'all.
Oh yeah.
Those three brothers. It's the same story, bro. It's just in a different city, and they're younger. That's the trip.
They're just 20 years younger.
I mean,
Oh yeah. And when those guys were getting started, we talked with them. I was sharing a little bit about the conference I'm at right now, and I think you guys, encountered us as often as you have. We just share, man. I'm like, ultimately at the end of the day, if you're able to make it rock and happen, I'm more than happy for you.
Yeah.
This ain't about us winning a race.
No.
It's about all of us getting to the finish line.
Yeah.
And we're all going to get there at different times. But one day we're all going to be on that other side of the line. I talked to my boys over at War Cloud out of California. We joke about that all the time. And another aspect was, we started looking more at just buying a place, just because we see a lot of other established breweries having to move or having to close, or because the rent's too damn high. The classic line. But our maturity allows us to have a level of patience with that.
Yeah, some patience. Yeah.
So that we're not rushing into a lease and then trying to figure out what the hell we're going to do when we get it. Right now, we're methodically moving towards a building that we will purchase, and then we will methodically move forward to develop it into the space we want it to be.
What part of town, what part of Atlanta you guys looking? Do you have a place you want to be?
For us, we want to be on the south side of Atlanta, basically between downtown and the airport.
Okay.
So West End, Deer Park, Sylvan Hills, College Park, East Point, Hapeville, Cascade, those areas, because there are no breweries there.
Nothing.
So,
opportunity.
And it's not like the incomes there can't support it.
Right.
But these are really deeply these are communities.
Oh yeah.
So if you're faking the funk, they're gonna let you know.
Yeah, I spent many a night in College Park.
Can't make it with these people,
Yeah, no, you cannot.
And we've had the opportunity to sort of listen and learn from a lot of folks who've been down that path anyway. So, we're enjoying that piece of the journey.
Yeah. What beers are you guys brewing and putting out there? What styles?
Well, we are sort of refining some of our older recipes to gear it up for larger scale production. So we had a beer called Joyland, which is named after African American amusement park built after the World's Fair came to Atlanta, because we couldn't go to the World's Fair. They built amusement park across the street that we could go to, but it became so fun. The white folks started showing up over there, and eventually it got torn down. But there's a neighborhood called Joyland. So it's a cream style ale. So it's light, easy drinking, around 4.9%. It's just a fun beer.
Yeah.
It's Joyland. We have Peachtree because we got all them damn Peachtree streets.
Northwest, Southwest, all them.
We're refining the Haru, which is our IPA. We have the Ra, which is a Tripel, similar to Golden Monkey and Boulevard Triple. Along those lines, we have a couple of IPAs. We have West End is a oatmeal raisin stout.
Oh yeah.
So that's I will brew it around 3 times before I go like, hey, this is what we're going for.
Yeah.
So Haru's popped off recently. In the summer, we were at a biking event, and the bikers, and when I say biking, I mean cycling.
Yeah.
So there's a Metro Atlanta Cycling Club, and so we were at one of their events with a stout in the summer, but it was a more traditional stout of around 5%, a little bit more than 5%.
Further proof, it's always stout season.
It really is, because stout, but part of educating people is letting them know, Guinness isn't that heavy.
Yes.
We've had thicker. Yeah, I've had a thicker stout yesterday. So,
which ones kind of out that you guys have done that have been really like taken, like people were like, oh, I want that.
One of the most recent ones we did with Mike Potter up at Proximity Brewing for Blacktoberfest was a Belgian triple. Well, no, wait. Sorry, a Belgian IPA. And we call it Culture Shock. And I had to go to battle to get it brewed, primarily because the brewery we worked with at the time wasn't very familiar with doing a beer like that.
Yeah.
It's just a Belgian strong or a Belgian double that's hot.
Yeah.
At 70 IBUs.
Yeah, it's kind of a mind fuck.
But it's not that far from what you can and can't do with beer.
But I think you just don't see it a lot.
Well, what I had to explain it to him was the last great Belgian IPA was a beer from Green Flash.
Oh yeah.
Freak.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I said that was an awesome beer, but Green Flash went through what Green Flash went through.
Yeah.
And that sort of died down. It came in like a 22-ounce bottle.
Yeah.
And it was really, and this one came out very, very close. We had people from Sweetwater and other places say like, "Dang, I get it now."
Yeah,
So it was
that's
one
great.
of those beers that people were like, "What?" And then they tried it. I was like, you can. Part of how we approach it is like, they're style guidelines. They're not hard rules.
They're guidelines.
Now, you can brew a beer to the style guidelines, but ultimately, at the end of the day, they're not hard, fast rules. It's jazz. It's African American soul food. All if we mac and cheese. Hell, if you've seen High Dog, you learn. Freaking Hercules, the freaking slave that was cooking for, George Washington, they sent him to France to learn how to make it better. And they made it so good, but then they wouldn't give him his freedom, and he left.
That was the mac and cheese.
Fucking ended up in Pennsylvania. He ended up in Philadelphia. He kept trying to find him because he made such good food.
Yeah,
that's one of the best. That's one of the best doc series out there. I love that series.
But, you think of the simple, crazy things of like, we want him back because he does cook such good food. I was like, well, free the man and fucking pay him. No, we can't do that.
Yeah.
So anyway.
It's time for another mystery beer.
Is it time?
Yeah, it's time for another mystery beer.
And I also want to let you know, I don't know how good my battery is, so I don't want to accidentally
we'll it's all good.
We'll wrap some things here.
We'll wrap it in like 10 minutes. How about that?
While he's cracking that open, you said you like the education of things.
Yeah.
So what is it that you really want to pass on? What do you really want to teach people about brewing, about beer, and culture?
I want people to see that beer connects us all through the stories and history and connections we have. It's one of the constants throughout history that so many cultures have, regardless of what the ingredients we use to make it. People have always come together around a beverage that they've been able to make in their homes and share with their family and their friends. And all of us, regardless of the hue, shape, height, all those other things, all of our cultures have something like that. And we can all still come together around it. So that's what we like people to learn. And we add these subtle stories to make sure that, at least from our perspective, the African diaspora and the African American diaspora is not excluded from that just because they don't know, or we don't know, that the role we had as being a part of that.
And that's
because
the
it's
beauty
easy
of
to go down the road and say, well, I just thought it was,
for this
a
group.
white thing, or this is the group that does that. And I'm like, no, everybody does it.
And I think
when you deal with us, you gotta. we have two Mexican lagers and a Mexican stout, and it deals with Afro Mexicans.
Yeah, because that's a thing as well. That's a thing as well. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
right.
The Seminoles, the Afro Seminoles who came over during the Trail of Tears to Nyanga and his group that ended up in Central America to farm sugarcane and all that other stuff as part of the transatlantic slave trade. There's stories all over the world, and it's just another way to put our story into the mix.
That's all we do on this podcast. We tell the stories, because beer's the through line, but there's so many exits off of that through line to tell stories. And whether it be, learning about Khonso Brewing or whatever. You know what I'm saying? people,
Yeah.
people just shouting you out. Tell them to come on over. So this beer I have is called Frickin' Hazer Beams. It's a hazy pale ale from Rough Tail Brewing out of Oklahoma City. I can't read the ABV, but I mean, it's fruity. Oh, he done muted himself.
Let's wrap it when he gets back.
It's fine. You can include anybody. This one. Tell them to come on over and give us a wave. Tell them to come over and give us a wave, man. You got guests. Hi.
Hey.
Look, unmute yourself. I'm like, this is an interactive podcast.
Yeah,
We're
not serious.
Can you read ABV on that?
Let me try.
So I don't. Yeah, I could not find it.
I feel like we've had this problem with Rough Tail before.
It's probably on there somewhere. This is our first guest that's not been where they live.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, unmute yourself there, William. Everybody wave. Unmute yourself. We can't hear you.
Well, there we go.
Can you unmute him?
No.
Oh,
Yes,
you
I
cannot.
just unmuted.
Yeah, you had us muted. It's fine. We don't mind. We don't mind the background.
We don't mind the background. Well, I like what you said there about kind of telling those stories, because I feel like, as the token white guy that's shown up for a few of the barrel and flows, right? What I love though is that I think that these are a lot of stories that haven't been in the history books, right? So these are stories that a lot of people don't know.
Yes.
That's part of what we do is add it to the record, make sure it's present, and and not do it in a preachy way, but more or less that I typically do it in a very matter of fact. It's like, yeah, that's what happened. Yes, there was an ancient Egyptian brewer well before Pliny the Elder.
Yes.
And people went and learned from him.
Yeah.
I mean, he was, and when they found a huge sort of brewery type area in Egypt, I was like, yeah, they did that.
What a surprise, right?
But don't treat it like, wow, how did they do that?
Yeah.
Come on.
It was a thing.
We've always been a part of the conversation. And it just, part of our approach is to make sure that the conversation is aware of our presence.
Yeah. But before we let you go, we have to ask the question: what does barrel and flow mean to Khonso Brewing?
It is one of those things. This actually came up to today, and I was talking with Day about it as well. And Aubrey's here from Crackham.
Oh shit!
Oh damn! Does he have a bottle of Hennessy?
Aubrey.
Oh, he's here. Oh shit!
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta get. Yeah, tell him to come on.
Why? Yeah, he thinks I want to have him buy me a beer.
No.
Yeah, but you do.
No.
Tell him you do.
You can always
He
go get
literally
it.
looked right at me. But it's one of the events. I'm on with Nigel.
Ladies and gentlemen,
The Henny Ninja.
the Henny Ninja.
What up, man?
What's up?
He's saying what's up. I'm doing the podcast.
What's up,
Yeah,
man?
that is Nick. Yes.
Hey, he's saying what's up, Nate.
Yeah. We can kind of hear him. We just wanted to shout you out, homie.
I'm gonna show Will the video from Barrel and Flow.
Oh, he's gonna show me the
What
video.
I mean,
from Barrel and Flow.
what video?
Is there a bad video?
Where Nigel was in the back of the truck.
What Nigel? You hear that? Yeah, there it
Yes.
is.
I got into a safer car.
I showed it to him. I ain't gonna post it to social media like I want to.
I mean, you know what? I would not be mad if you posted it.
He said he would not be mad if you posted it.
I might buy a round if you post it.
Good to see you, bro.
Oh boy.
Oh, we love Aubrey.
Yeah.
So, and that kind of sums it up. Barrel and Flow is the place. It's just like this year when I was there, I was sitting outside, you know, when they did the bottle share that first night
Yeah.
before the event. I'm sitting outside. I can't remember. Someone can't walk up and go. And I'm sitting on like that thing outside, and I'm just smiling. And someone goes like, "What the fuck are you smiling for?" I was like, "I'm just happy to see us all here."
Yes.
You know, regardless of whatever life has thrown at us, it's a family reunion
It
type
really is.
event
Yes. Family reunion.
for, you know, Black folks involved in beer and brewing, the African American diaspora as a whole in arts, beer, and brewing. And that's what it means to us. I can say this in confidence, speaking for Corby and Kevin as well. We, you know, when we come, it's a family reunion. I get to chop it up with War Cloud. I get
Yeah.
to chop it up with Vine Street,
Yeah.
with Funky, with Black Frog.
Yeah.
You know, it's probably going to evolve into more of an East Coast, Midwest, East Coast type thing because the OP Fest out in California is probably going to pull more from that region a little bit as things go forward. But yeah, it's like a family reunion. And when we all see each other, I was just smiling because people are doing well
Yeah.
with whatever aspects of their life they need to do well in. And it's pleasing to see. You guys know when I see y'all, I'm like, you know,
Yeah.
it's it is
It's a
a
vibe.
wonderful way to reconnect with people who I personally want to see do well
Yeah.
and be successful in whatever endeavors they have in front of them. And it's our it's our annual opportunity
Yeah.
to really do that.
Yeah.
And I love too that you can connect with people once a year there, and you just pick up right where you left off.
It literally is. So, and I think it helps. It's you know, for a traditional Black family reunion, it's like every other year, but that's where everybody comes.
Yeah.
It's the hard check-in,
Yeah.
and then people go and do their thing for another 2 years, and then you go meet in another city, and you all come together. And you know, that's something we've done since post emancipation. You know,
Yeah.
it's a way to find our relative relations and connections.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what Barrel and Flow has evolved into. I don't, you know, Jay's not too far away, but it's not necessarily how it started. And for many people, it's different things.
Yeah.
But that's what it is. I can say with confidence for Khonso and and Corby, Kevin, and myself is, you know, we enjoy it. He knows I'm already planning the beer for next year. We're looking at working with Referend Blendery on creating a hibiscus passion fruit lambic. So we're bringing the fire. I want to fuck with Kumba and them, go like, all right, here's what we doing. What you doing? You know, that type of thing. So I was told day today, he's like, so, you know, I'm ready for it already.
Yeah.
So
Heard.
planning for it, and it's become that type of event for us.
Yes.
And we're excited about it. We're looking forward to showing off a little bit, and as well as seeing what everybody else is doing and being happy that we all have an opportunity to come back together again.
Yeah. Well, before we let you go, we're gonna let you know in the spring we're doing an event at Vine Street. We're gonna do a screening of One Pint at a Time.
Okay, got it.
So
yeah,
we'll get you some information. So we'd love for you guys to come to Kansas City. You know, we're gonna try and get Day and Al Sharpton and who else? Ale Sharpton.
Ale Sharpton.
Yeah.
Now, if Al will come, that'd be great
We'll
too.
take Al too, but we're gonna bring, you know, Aaron and Brigitte are gonna come out.
Yeah, we're gonna do a whole thing at Vine Street. We're gonna steal a page out of Barrel Folk playbook.
We're gonna have a bottle share.
We're gonna do a bottle share Friday night before. So yeah, and a live podcast. So we just copying what they do. Yeah.
got it.
So tell people where they can find Khonso Brewing on the social medias.
Well, in Atlanta, you can frequently find us at Red's Beer Garden, which
Okay.
is in the Grand Park neighborhood.
Oh shit, yeah.
Beer Girl, which is in Hateville, which is a city just next to the airport.
Yeah.
Grand Park Market, which is over near Oakland Cemetery, over in south of downtown Atlanta. We're at typically at Brick Store whenever we have, especially when we do something like the Belgian IPA and things like that. So follow us on social media at Instagram. We're at khonsobrewing.com, as well as on Facebook. We let people know where it's going to be.
Heard.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
I think we just lost it.
You think he lost it?
He told us the battery.
Yeah. I mean, that's I mean, how's that going to work on the upload?
Well, you know what? I'm just going to do the one video. This one. It'll be
Okay.
fine.
Okay.
Hey, since he froze out, Nigel,
Where do they find us?
you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or most any of your favorite podcast apps. And I think we're on the socials too.
Is it weird that we say where they can find us, but if they're listening, they found us?
That is weird.
Welcome to the Matrix.
I took the wrong pill.
What episode is this?
This is, well,
Is this 105, 6?
104, 105.
You're kind of behind. He gone.
Hey, yo!
He gone. I kind of like the new setup though. This is kind of cool.
Nigel, socials, where are we?
The Facebooks, the Grams, the Twitter. I'm not calling it X. All the podcast flavors. YouTube.
YouTube podcasts?
I mean, if you just Google beers with Nigel, it's a vibe.
You're going to find it.
It's a vibe.
That's podcast in Kansas City.
Oh, that's right. For those who don't know out there in the world, Pitch KC, best local podcast 2023. So we're gonna ride this way for
at least a year.
We'll probably win next year, I think.
Why not?
I mean,
Why not?
I mean, with our marketing team.
On that note,
Goodbye.
good night.
Drive safe.
You've been listening to Beers with Nigel, a show about beer and other stuff, hosted by Nigel Woodbury and that other guy, Nick Parker. Beers with Nigel is poured for you by Dire Oil Graphics, providing bumper-to-bumper graphic design, promo products, and print services. Find them at direoil.com. Beers with Nigel is a proud member of the Fredcast Network and is available on all of your favorite podcast flavors. Find Beers with Nigel on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and ask Alexa to play the Beers with Nigel podcast.